I'm going to go to the audience now. I noticed that there's a few kind of interesting people in the audience. We've got John Collins there from Intercom and a couple of others as well. So encourage you not just necessarily to ask questions, but also maybe to throw in some other insights. So who'd like to go first?
Peter, my name is Andrea. Where did your first customers come from?
That's where DC's on the company, I suppose, a year or 3 months. And we were doing very well up to that point, and he's really accelerated things. But we put the product out on the web back in, I don't know, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I remember that first month we didn't submit it to Google, there was no Twitter, and miraculously we got 2 customers. And we had no idea where they came from. I can't even remember who they were, but we had $124 in recurring revenue in our first month. And it was just a slow, steady trickle stream from there. I suppose it was just such a big market. It's early days that we were just naturally going to get some customers. There was a lot more players. A lot of guys have gone out of business. There was a lot of companies like GoPlan. I'm not sure if they're still going, but I haven't heard anything from those guys in years. We just we had our consultancy business, and that was our bread and water. That allowed us to just put food on the table. We hated working on it. It was just horrible. We were the hamster in the wheel. We worked on our product on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays constantly, and we just kept making it better and better. I don't have a really good answer how we succeeded. We were always just really customer focused. I mean, we'd spend hours on the phone with customers. We'd get back to them in seconds. If we had like 10 emails waiting for us in the morning, we would answer the newest in first, so that they'd get an answer within 30 seconds, and we just blow them away. We still do that today. We get back to the kind of newest queries first, and just that'll absolutely blow customers away. Or if it goes past an hour or two, it doesn't matter. Just determination and hard work. And so a big secret for us, for our success, is that we used our own product every single day. So we continually got annoyed by our own product, and that allowed us to make it better. So features were just popping up in the product because Dan would be annoyed that there's no easy way to switch between projects. That you have to go back out to this menu and go back in again. So next time there's a quick switcher, and I'd be annoyed if there's no keyboard shortcut, and we made it better. And we sucked at marketing for years. I mean, we were teamworkpm.net. I mean, that shows how little we knew about marketing. Right? I'm really sorry I don't have a better answer other than hard work.
I think there's a couple of interesting things there, actually. I mean, firstly, eating your own dog food, and that's something that Fergus emphasized as well. It's amazing how often I, as an investor, come across companies where the motto is probably more along the lines of the cobbler's children being the worst shod, you know. So I think that's actually a really important point. Next question from the audience, sir.
Hi, my name is Bernard. I'm very early in the process of launching and developing a product. So I'm trying to work out how to get the balance between the freemium, which is a concept I love, but the fact that you don't have
you should talk to Fergus.
you don't have a whole array of bells and whistles yet developed because you're just trying to get your MVP up and running. How do you get a price point balance when you're at such an early stage in the process?
If the solution that you're targeting is going to be a reasonable process-centric problem that you're solving in the B2B world, I would strongly suggest you start with a free trial of whatever the MVP is.
Yeah. Okay.
Rather than a free perpetual trial.
Sure.
It gives you more control. I do think, and as much as was said on the teamwork, the very same thing happened with Salesforce.com. The first customer we had in Europe paid us £35 sterling. They were in Scotland, a company called PTL. Okay? You have to find a few customers' friends that will test or stretch. Salesforce had about 5 million in revenue when I first joined. They were all friends of Mark, right? But they were enough to prove the MVP, which I think is what you need to do first. But I think in terms of a price point, you need to look at the value of the problem you're solving. So when we did the pricing for Salesforce.com in 2001, and it's still the same price for the professional and enterprise edition, they've added more on top and more below. We looked at the value of selling, the value proposition. And the way we used to say it was, if we were selling in the UK, the professional edition is £45 sterling, it would cost as much to cross London in a taxi. Would you invest that in your salespeople? So you need to find, you know, I have a good friend who's involved in the nursing home care with a SaaS solution, and he prices per bed per day. You know, so something that means, and that's why is understood by your prospect and is reasonable value. And if I could give you last piece of advice, set the price higher today than the product warrants. Okay? It is much harder once you go public with it to go up with it. You can do addition tricks and stuff like that, but set it higher because you will add more functionality, you will add more value. And if it's a technical problem at the moment, you can always solve that with just a discount.
I might actually ask DJ to comment on that as well, because that's something that DataHug has experimented with. Free trials, how do you manage the free trials, how do you convert the free trials?
Yeah, so I suppose initially we had a kind of like a premium channel as well. We're probably unique in that we have a barrier in that we have to get access to enterprise email traffic, which is, you know, quite a barrier up front. One thing I would say on free trials, I remember when we were doing the freemium model at the start, is we were delighted when people signed up and maybe invited other people. We were like, oh, that's successful, that trial is going great. But actually, turn around and say, what's successful for the customer, what do they want to do, what they want to achieve. And I think that mind shift is quite important, because at the start, we were looking at, oh, they invited 10 people, they're clicking around, this is fantastic, the trial is going swimmingly. But they might be like frustrated, like pressing on a button saying, I'm expecting something else to happen here. So if you have to change the mindset around saying, what do they actually want to achieve, then it actually becomes very different. But right back to Brian's question, we do a free trial at the moment, but it's a managed free trial, it's a 30-day free trial. They get access to the full suite of functionality. I think something that's really important is to really understand the core value that your product is going to deliver and optimize the bejesus out of the trial to make them see that early. And if they see that value on day 2, convert them and push them then. And I remember at the start what we did is we just left them off for 30 days and then just rang them at the end and say, hey, do you want to give them money? Instead of engaging, getting them bought in up front. And all of a sudden on day 7, day 8, they're like, oh, this is fantastic, I can really get an accurate forecast with your product. Cool, let's talk about you paying us money and let's roll this out. And obviously that shortens the sales cycle as well, rather than having your 30 to 40 to 50 days, it brings it right down. So that's what really worked for us.
Super. Thanks very much.
Can I just say as well, you can test your pricing. I mean, it's not written in stone. You can nudge it up. We put up our pricing there last year, and my co-founder was like, we can't do it, customers will freak out, we're going to piss off our old customers. We just left all our old customers on what they're paying, put up our prices. We were like nervous doing it, but we seen no drop off in sales, so we were like, and there's been nobody's come back to us. Our prices are very competitive, so nothing wrong testing.
Watch out the existing customers.
You've talked about how you build a direct relationship with the customers that you want to have paying, but what about starting a community?
So one of our competitors, Basecamp, they had forums. We were like, oh, we should have forums in the early days, and we don't have the bandwidth to manage the forums and engage with our customers. Here we're already snowed under. We need more people, so we didn't do it. And interestingly, after 2 years, they shut down the forums because their forums are just flooded with people saying, where is this feature, where is that feature, where is the other feature, and pissing people off, and we're typically very blunt. So we've tended to stay away from those forums in the community. It's now something we're kind of re-engaging again with LinkedIn and Facebook. We're trying to encourage people to go to there and make them our community, and we're trying to encourage our customers to talk to each other. We're thinking of putting a kind of a community system into our product so that customers can vote on features that we decide, this is our pipeline of features, and then they can get one vote per month, and then they can discuss these features and we can share plans around the features.
I think it's a function of, it works, forums and communities work very well in the marketing space, for example. So you'll find HubSpot, Marketo, Pardo, previously Eloquat, because that type of community is interested. Salespeople, it's selfish, not as likely. So I think there's an element of the success of the community is a function of the target market as much as anything. But you're very right. If you're going to do it, make sure you do have closest to the greatest things in sliced pan as a product, and you can resource and keep it fresh and keep it engaged. I think
It's a huge time sink.
It's a huge time thing, but if your audience is open to it, and that's the key thing.
One thing we've done from the start as well, and we were just chatting about it earlier, about kind of like, small companies need to admit that they're alive and that they're going places, so people have confidence in you. And we put from the very start a board where people can come in and vote on the features, and we kind of like move them in a Kanban style, so when they're being tested, when they're being designed, people can see what's happening in it. And we put all our staff in there, and we assign who's working on who, so they can, it's kind of a community, and they can vote on which features they like and comment on those features as well. So it's a little bit, it's very little, there's no work around it, we look like we're active because we're naturally moving it on using the Kanban system, and yet there's no moderation like you would have with a forum.
My question's for DJ. With regard to the enterprise versus small business decisions, can you talk a little bit about how big that decision was?
Yeah, so we almost fell into the enterprise space at the start, just given the first few customers that we got. So most of our outbound activity and marketing activity now is just mainly aimed at the mid-market, specifically in the US, or primarily in the US. So in terms of all the marketing dollars and our outbound SDR team and our account execs, they're basically focused on those mid-market customers, where we get most of our enterprise customers actually through referrals. So like the Grant Thornton here, we're in multiple members in Grant Thornton. We started in CBRE 18 months ago in one division in London, and now we're across several countries. So that's actually been the main source of those enterprise customers. And if you get a referral, the sales cycle is not as long. They're almost qualified themselves already. They are pretty interested and educated on what your product does and what they can achieve. So that's the approach we're taking at the moment. So most of all the outbound stuff we're doing is to mid-market, and then it's almost like opportunistic when it comes to enterprise, mainly through referrals and stuff like that.